Welcome to My Business Matters, the Michigan Chamber podcast.
Welcome. I'm Jim Holcomb, President and CEO of the Michigan Chamber, and today's podcast host. We're going to be taking a closer look at the Attorney General's recent actions to try to gin up some lawsuits against the fossil fuel industry and the potential harm that those suits could have on Michigan's infrastructure, and it's that infrastructure that keeps our homes, schools, hospitals, and businesses running. Two very special guests today, Mark Griffin, President of the Michigan Petroleum Association and the Michigan Association of Convenience Stores, and our very own Mike Alaimo, the Chamber's Director of Environmental and Energy Affairs. Gentlemen, thanks for joining.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark, if we could start with you, give us a little bit of background on the associations you work with and the work they're doing.
Sure. Michigan Petroleum Association, Michigan Association of Convenience Stores. We're in our 90th year, believe it or not.
Oh, that's great.
Started in 1934. We're primarily.
Have you been there the whole time?
I've only been there a third of that time, believe it or not. Only 30 plus years now, and 31 in a week here. So
awesome.
We're petroleum wholesalers, retailers throughout the state of Michigan. We sell gas, we sell diesel, heating oil, propane, anything to do with the petroleum space.
Everything that consumers need.
Exactly.
To run their life.
Exactly. 5,000 gas stations in Michigan, probably 3,500 of those are owned by my members, and we deliver the fuel to the other 1,500 or so. Yeah. So we're essential to keeping Michigan moving. I like to tell people that during COVID, it was the doctors and the nurses and the firemen and the police who were the heroes of COVID, but they couldn't have gotten to work every day if they didn't stop at the seesaw and see our wonderful clerks that work so hard.
Absolutely. Mike, let's kind of jump into the meat of the issue we've got going here. Can you give us a little background? What has the Attorney General actually proposed?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Jim. A few weeks ago, we saw the Attorney General basically solicit through an RFP style approach the intent to sue the fossil fuels industry. And there wasn't clear definition of what fossil fuel industry means, and there wasn't clear legal arguments or rationalization given as to why this litigation was necessary or in the public's interest, other than damage to climate change. This is extremely troublesome and problematic, as has already been pointed out. Our fossil fuels industry and the fuel and the energy resources that are all a part of that are critical to a robust state economy. And, there are economic realities that go along with that. You need to be able to have the resources available to you to ensure that Michigan is a place where we all want to live and play. And so, we really have problems and concerns with taking a shot at an enormous industry with that is not clearly defined, so we're not even sure who all we're talking about here. But then to go out in this RFP style approach and say, hey, litigation attorneys, you give me the best legal argument for how I can sue this industry. I don't know, or I don't have the resources to do it myself. So you go out and do it, and I'll kind of deputize you as doing the work on behalf of the Attorney General's office to go after this industry. And of course, they'll reap the benefits of any decision that's made that results in damages, financial damages or otherwise. So, this is just generally an approach that we don't feel is in Michigan's best interest, because it really incentivizes these private law firms to go out there and litigate these issues, no matter how far away they are from any kind of legal truth.
Mark, I think that's one of the most troubling things is Chief's just telling people go attack your members and people supply your members, people interact all up and down the whole supply chain of fossil fuels.
Right. We found the whole thing very sobering. Here, the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Michigan, through some sort of super secret RFP process, is hiring some mercenaries. Some mercenary lawyers to come after us for the weather. That's how we look at it. Our C-store clerks, they don't control the global price of crude oil, and they sure don't control whether or not it's going to rain or be hot tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it seems unfair when we're such a foundational industry to begin with.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering, have you got any response from her office or people who support her? What would happen if she's successful and shuts down your industry?
Yeah, we believe it or not, they don't call us very often.
Did you have a heads up that this was even coming?
No, we did not. We've seen it in some other states. There's some stuff that has gone on out east where they've tried to do something similar. Ideally, if this is truly something the fossil fuel industry, or as we like to call it, the petroleum industry, to us, fossil fuel is almost like a negative. To us, the petroleum industry does a great job, and if it's really something that there's any meat to this, it should be more at the national level, not wasting state taxpayer dollars.
Have you heard anything from your colleagues in other states where this does go on? Have they made headway? Are they fighting back successfully? Are these suits going anywhere? Or is it just attorney generals across the country looking for clicks and likes and some social media branding?
It's clearly a political decision. They can't raise taxes high enough to fund all their programs, so they're looking for another industry that they can try to go after and get a big settlement to create some sort of cash cow. I think Vermont recently passed some legislation to try to circumvent having to go to court. So I don't know all the details on that, though.
Yeah. Mike, what are you hearing from other people in the industry, other people in other parts of this supply chain? How do they view what the Attorney General's doing? And it's a little scary, even if you're not in the fossil fuel supply chain, if they're successful in this, what other area could they just utilize this approach?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what I can tell you is we're hearing a lot of concern, whether they're a member company that is fearful they someday become a defendant under this effort, or a member that needs access to fuel and power supply, and just the acknowledgement that the petroleum industry, as Mark puts it, is a important piece of how we power the grid. And so when you look at it from a macro point of view, everybody should have concern, because this is an enormous piece of our power generation puzzle. And if it were to stop overnight, it would be very difficult to understand how folks, particularly in northern Michigan, would heat their homes, or how our trucking industry would get where they need to go. And of course, trucks are also transporting critical resources and materials and goods and services throughout the state. So, I mean, dampening effect on the economy is it doesn't even give it justice. I mean, I think this could potentially shut down the economy overnight if it were to be successful. And so, we are working to push back on this. One, to help understand, help folks understand, that again, this economic reality that we need, a diversified approach to how we power our economy. And that, again, industry is leading the charge in innovating and, being more sustainable and reducing, emissions footprints, all of those things that we need to do to help address climate change. But this doesn't do that, right? This creates an us versus them type of dialogue, and I can't see a single productive solution coming out of this.
Yeah, from my chair sitting at the chamber, it just seems like an attack on the business community in total. And it's just, a very damaging approach. Mark, I don't know how we would ever even quantify the economic damage, no pun intended with this, but it's almost like when the dog catches the car. It's like, okay, now what? If she was successful and this happened, what the heck would happen? But what's the economic impact just to your industry and to, the employees of your members?
Sure. Well, I'm going to take it a step further and look at the consumers, our customers. We're in the convenience business, right? So we sell gas, we sell diesel, we sell all sorts of heating fuels. We're putting in EV chargers where it makes sense, for our customers.
Sure.
Any mercenary attack like this is if the industry ends up having to pay these big fees, that's ultimately going to be passed on to the consumer. Just like we've seen in other things, people have said, well, this sounds like what happened to the tobacco industry. Well, Cigarettes are much more expensive now than what they ever used to be.
Yep.
And the consumer pays those fees. Just like if they raise one of our taxes that we prepay, whether it's the motor fuel tax or the sales tax on gasoline, if those go up, we have to pass those costs along. That's going to be the economic impact, assuming we're able to even still stay in business, which, Mike's starting to scare the death out of me over here. So, but there's some truth to it. It's everything that we're surrounded with right here sitting at this table has a petroleum component to it. Mm-hmm. So if you start cracking down on the use of petroleum, there is no other reliable replacement for that. It's not just fuel. It's energy. It's all the different chemicals and everything that we use petroleum for.
Well, that's why I think people, their mind tends to go to cars. And they think, okay, I'll have to drive an electric car. Yep. But Mike, maybe you can go into, I know when we've looked at pipeline issues and other, just the sheer breadth of every product in our everyday life that has petroleum in it.
Yep, absolutely. Right. You think of the end source use case, cars, transportation, those types of things. But of course, it's much more than that. And we know that, frankly, the petrochemical supply chain in America, not just Michigan, but in America, is one of the ways that we compete best globally. I mean, we do that better than anybody. And these are building block. This is chemistry. This is building block chemistry that is used for everything. And, everything from, medical supplies and parts, R&D, research and development, all of these pieces, utilize that supply chain. And I would like to just say, I know that we, typically focus on the business community. We're the Michigan Chamber, and that's what we do. But it is interesting to note, the state itself has been in the process of auctioning and leasing state-owned lands for the purposes of oil and gas extraction. So, those are funds that are those are revenues that go to the Natural Resource Trust Fund. Everybody largely agrees that's a great not only funding mechanism, but an important program for how we manage our state-owned lands and forests. It seems very disingenuous that the Attorney General...
You aren't suggesting that somehow government is inconsistent in their application of thought, are you?
It's just, it kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit.
Well, I think, where my mind went to was, it seems like on so many fronts, and this is just another one, I think everyone agrees that population is an issue for Michigan, and we want to be an economically strong state. We want to attract jobs. We want to attract people. But a lot of the programs and proposals out there are doing the exact opposite. Again, this just seems like something that not only drives away business, but drives away people who look to relocate. You aren't going to come to a state if you think that your fossil fuels that are needed are going to be in short supply. Are you, Mark?
I think not. And we're seeing, Michigan is next on the list of some of the large national chains that are looking to expand outside their traditional footprints. Mm-hmm. And some of those may be having second thoughts about whether or not they should come into Michigan if this is how industry is going to be treated. And that's a concern for I think for everyone who wants to do business in Michigan is, are you next?
Yep. And then for all the businesses that don't come in, it's just another lack of convenience for people throughout the state. Hopefully your state grows and we get more population. You need to have more providers of goods and services everywhere in all four corners of Michigan. And if we're driving people away, we aren't going to see that.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. This is not, I don't think, in line with the state's goals. We want to continue to improve and grow our economy. We want, there's so many pieces of the population growth puzzle around affordable housing, affordable childcare, all of these things. You can't do that if you've taken away the backbone of your economy.
Mark, is this just something that's happening? It's already going on and it's out there and there's no way to stop it? What's a timeline? Where are we in the process?
Well, I think we're still early. I don't know what law firms actually responded to the RFP. Like I said, it's a super secret process, so we aren't really aware of who it is. My members want to know.
Yeah. Well, it seems like transparency. If you're going to come out and sue businesses within the state and you're going to have this big push, tell everybody what's going on. Tell them what the process is. How do people get chosen to go after, and what are their powers? You're going to have, you get bad actors coming out saying, "Oh, I'm investigating, I'm doing this on behalf of the Attorney General," and they could be completely lying. But how do people know what's real and what's not?
Right. Yeah. Hey, if you get the emails I get every day, somebody's trying to scam me every day via email. I wouldn't be surprised to see this, become a big phishing attempt, no pun intended, for someone. So I think we're still early in the process, but it's going to be fascinating to watch it unfold and whether or not this is really a good use of state resources. I obviously don't think it is. I'm a biased petroleum guy. Yeah. I get it. But I think there's better things that we could be spending our resources and our time and efforts on than this.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's very troubling for people in the business community. It's even when the state isn't spending their own resources, they're trying to tap into somebody else and say, hey, we'll give you a windfall. We'll give you a contingency fee. Go out and harass business. Go out and bring down an industry. And if you're lucky enough to do it, it's Willy Wonka. You got your gold ticket and here you go.
Right. And we have really big concerns just with that structure alone, regardless of this specific case. That type of approach where you're going out to a private law firm and kind of telling them you do our dirty work, that also, as we've seen in some other situations where this has been used, is kind of used as a shield from the media as well, as they've made inquiries and they've reached out trying to figure out what's going on, or have access to documents that were used in a hearing process or otherwise. They're being told, no, we don't have to do that because this is through a private law firm. So that should have everybody concerned, again, from the transparency perspective.
Yeah. We're kind of getting close on time here, but one final question for both of you. What should business leaders be taking away? What should consumers be taking away from this? Mark, we'll start with you.
I think you just got to keep your glove up and, do the right thing. We do the right thing in the petroleum industry. We clean up our own problems. We've done a lot to help people in Michigan. We help people every day, and I always look at the job our clerks do, and they're just outstanding. Yep. And I'm really glad to represent the industry and be part of Michigan.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think doing the right thing is the exact message. Our members are leading the charge on innovation and coming up with better solutions to our world's problems every day. So we don't want to stop any of that. We're going to continue to monitor the situation and educate folks on it.
Great, and I think education's the key to it. Well, as always, time goes very fast on these good conversations. A very special thanks to both Mark and Mike, and to all of you for listening. Tune in to our next episode. Subscribe and like our podcasts for easy notifications. And please engage. If what you're hearing sounds troubling to you, speak up, say something, call your elected officials, call the Attorney General's office, and tell them what you think.